Hello, fourth grade. In this video, we are going to learn about partial quotients. The first problem we have is 76 divided by 2. 76 is known as my dividend. That is the whole total amount that I have. So in this problem, let's refer to 76 as, let's say, cookies. That's telling me that I have 76 cookies. Now, dividing by 2. 2 is known as my divisor. That is telling me I want to determine how many groups of 2 can I create with the 76 cookies. So yes, you could draw out 76 cookies and circle groups of 2 and count how many groups of 2 you can make. However, we might be here for a while if you were to do that. So instead, we're going to use partial quotients to determine my answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is 76 divided by 2. Now notice I'm rewriting this with a different type of division symbol. This division symbol is one way to represent division, but writing a division symbol like this as well is another way you can write a division symbol here. So 76 divided by 2. Now again, 76 is known as my dividend. 2 is my divisor. That's telling me I want groups of 2. Now, how many groups of 2 will I be able to make? Well, that's going to become my quotient, which is the answer to this problem. Now, in another color, just so you guys can clearly see this, I'm first going to just draw a line down the side. To the left of my line is going to be my work. To the right of my line is going to be my answer. I'm going to first look just at that 7. Now, just at that 7, I have 2 times some number is going to get me close to or exactly to 7. So I know 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. So notice here, if I do 2 times 3, I'm going to write my 3 on my side near my answer. That gives me 6. Now that gets really, really close to 7. I don't want to use 2 times 4 because that would go over 7, and I would then have 8. And we can't do 7 minus 8 here, and we don't have enough there. So we want to get really, really close to 7. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this missing space here with a digit, but I need a digit that has no value. So we can call that a placeholder 0, or what other digit would have no value? The only digit with no value is in fact a 0. So if I include a 0 in my work, I need to also include a 0 in my answer here as well. Now notice, to confirm that this is correct, I could do 2 times 30 is 60. So now that's where we got 60 as well. So now I'm going to subtract, and this is telling me, well, I was able to make 30 groups of 2, but let's see if I could still continue making more groups. So when I subtract, it shows me that I still have 16 of those cookies left, and I need to continue making more groups. If I have 16 cookies, I can still keep making more groups of 2. So now 2 times what number is going to get me close to or exactly to 16? Well, I do know that 2 times 8 is 16, and that's great. So 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to subtract here, and I'm left with 0, telling me that I was able to fit every single cookie into a group of 2. So now, out of those 76 cookies, I was able to create lots of groups of 2. But now, how many groups of 2 did I create? My last step here is to add everything on the side. So I'd like to circle the side here, and I just write 30 plus 8, which happens to be 38. And I always look just to make sure I have no remainder, and I have no remainder here. So my answer to this problem, or my quotient, I like to put on top, is 38. So my quotient here is 38 as my answer. Now, to check that my work is correct, how do you know I did this problem correctly? Well, we could do 38 times 2, and that in fact is going to give me 76 as my answer. It's always great to check your work by using multiplication to see if your division problem was correct. Now, some of you might have mentally been able to do this in your head, and that's wonderful if you can, but it's still very important to use this time with smaller numbers to learn this process, because soon we're going to get into larger numbers, and when we start dividing with larger numbers, you're going to need to know this process. And by doing this process, we'll prevent any little mistakes that could occur. So we want to prevent any of those little mistakes from occurring. So doing this process and learning partial quotients is really, really important. So let's try again. Now we have 98 divided by 2. So again, I'm just going to rewrite this to 98 divided by 2. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just draw my line. I'll do this time in blue. Okay, so I'm going to first look at my first digit, 9. 2 times what number gets me close to or exactly to 9? Well, I know that 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 5 is 10. That's way too big. So if I know 2 times 4 is 8, I put that right underneath my 9, but I notice there's this missing space here. So in that missing area, we need a digit with no value. The only digit we know of with no value is 0. So if I include 0 in my work, I need to include 0 in my answer. Now I'm going to subtract, because this is telling me, well, I made 40 groups so far, but I might be able to make some more. So let's see. So if I subtract, I'm left with 18. Now my last step here is I'm like, well, I still have 18 of that whole group left over. Let's see how many more groups I can continue to break 18. I can break 18 into more groups of 2. So 2 times some number gets me really, really close to 18, or exactly 18. Now if you know your math facts, 2 times 9 is 18. So 2 times 9 is 18. This is great. When I subtract, this is showing me I have nothing left over or no remainder. Now my last step here is to look at all the digits on my side. I'm going to add them together. So 40 plus 9 happens to be 49. And notice 49 is known as my quotient, and I have no remainder at all here either. Just 49 is the answer to this problem. Now notice on the side here, 40 plus 9, that's 49 written in expanded form. So some of you could use that information you know about expanded form to quickly determine your answer as well. Now, to confirm I did this correct, I take my quotient of 49 and I multiply it by my divisor of 2. If I was to do 49 times 2 on the side of my paper, I do get 98. And since 98 is my dividend, that means I did that correct. So 49 times 2, in fact, is 98 as my answer, and that's confirming that 49 is the correct answer. Now we're going to try this again, but notice we have a 3-digit number here as my dividend. So imagine drawing out 604 circles, and I want to group that in to determine how many groups of 5 can I create. We would be here all day doing this problem. So instead, let's try partial quotients to help me determine the answer to my problem. First thing I'm going to do is draw my line down, which is going to separate my work from my answer. So now 5 times some number here is going to give me, get me really, really close to 6. So 5 times some number is going to get me closer exactly to 6. Well, I know 5 times 1, in fact, is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. That's a little too big. So we're going to use 5. Now notice we have 2 spaces here. There needs to be a digit. We just don't know what digit's going to go there. Well, there's no digit. We need a digit with no value. That digit is a 0. So I'm going to put 1, 2 zeros to fill in this missing space. So if I fill in 2 zeros in my work, I need to also include 2 zeros in my answer. So now when I subtract, I'm left with 104. So I'm getting really, really close. And to confirm that I did this right as well, 5 times 100 is 500. So now I still have 104 left. I can continue making more groups of 5. So instead of looking at just one, I'm going to look at the 1 and the 0. So 5 times what number gets me really, really close or exactly to 10? Well, I know that 5 times 2 is 10. This is great. 5 times 2 is 10. Wow, I got exactly 10. But notice here I have one missing digit. And in this missing digit, I'm just going to include this 0. So if I write a 0 here in my work, I'm going to also include a 0 in my answer. So now let's subtract. When I subtract, I'm left with 4. So now I only have 4 items left, or my remainder of 4. Now I know I'm finished because I want to create groups of 5. And notice I don't have 5 things left to create. And when my remainder is less than my divisor, I know I'm finished. So now my next piece is I need to figure out my answer. So I'm going to take 100 plus 20. I'm going to add those numbers together. So 100 plus 20 is going to give me, I'm running out of space here, is going to give me 120 as my final answer. So here my quotient is in fact 120. But notice I have a remainder in this problem. So since I have a remainder, I need to include that in my answer of remainder 4. Now notice my entire answer now is 120 remainder 4. Now this is a great problem to confirm that I did this correctly. So how do you know that Miss Lott did this right? Well, let's check my work. So I'm going to take my quotient 120. I'm going to multiply 120 by my divisor, which happens to be 5. And let's see what happens. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. I'm going to carry my 1. My 0 goes in my tens place. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Now, to determine that this is correct, you want your quotient multiplied by your divisor to equal your dividend. Now, I notice I have 600 here, and I'm like, I know I did this work really, really good. I know it's right, but how come I'm getting 600? Well, there's one more step you need to do. So now I'm going to take 600 and I'm also going to add my remainder of 4 to the 600. So when I add my remainder of 4, I'm left with 604 now. And now I'm like, yes, I know I did it correctly because this is the same answer as my dividend. So notice I multiplied 120 times 5, which got me almost my dividend, but I can't forget about the remainder. When there is a remainder, then you have to add that remainder, which should give you your dividend. That's how you know that you solved this problem correctly. So this entire rest of November, part of December, we're going to continue working on partial quotients. Okay, this is one of the 2 ways that we will focus on in 4th grade on dividing numbers. Okay, so we are going to focus on partial quotients right at this moment, and then we will move on to the standard algorithm. However, I would like everyone to try partial quotients, and if you ever need to refer back to this video at any time to help you with problems like this, you are welcome to watch this as many times as you would like on my YouTube channel. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this video.